Dr. Vexus had spent 40 years studying the biology of different species across the galaxy. She had seen creatures that could survive in the vacuum of space. She had examined beings that lived for thousands of years without aging. She had documented life forms that could change their physical shape at will, but nothing in her long career had prepared her for what she was about to witness in Laboratory 7 of the Galactic Research Station. The human male strapped to the examination table was unremarkable by most standards. His name was Marcus Chen, and he was 32 years old. He was of average height and average build. His vital signs showed nothing special. According to every test they had run over the past 3 days, he was a completely ordinary specimen of his species. But Dr. Vexus knew better. The reports from across the galaxy had been too consistent to ignore. Humans were doing impossible things. They were performing feats that defied everything the scientific community understood about biological limitations. And the source of these abilities seemed to be connected to something the humans called adrenaline. "Is the monitoring equipment ready?" Vexus asked her assistant, a young Kellian named Torix. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she checked the readings on her tablet. "All systems are operational, Doctor," Torix replied. "We are recording everything. Brain activity, heart rate, muscle density, hormone levels. If anything changes in his body, we will see it." Marcus lifted his head from the table. "You know where I come from. We usually buy someone dinner before strapping them to a table." Vexus tilted her head. She had been warned about human humor. It seemed to emerge at the strangest times. "We apologize for any discomfort, Mr. Chen. As we explained, we are simply trying to understand your species better. The Galactic Council has granted us permission to conduct these studies." "And as I explained," Marcus said, "I volunteered for this. I just didn't expect so many needles." There were 17 monitoring devices attached to various parts of his body. Each one fed data into the central computer system. The amount of information they were collecting was enormous, but Vexus wanted to leave nothing to chance. "We will begin with simple stress tests," Vexus explained. "We need to establish baseline measurements before we move to more advanced experiments." Marcus nodded. "Sure, what do you want me to do?" "For now, simply relax. We will introduce controlled stressors and monitor your body's response." The first test was simple. They played loud, unexpected sounds through speakers positioned around the room. Marcus jumped slightly at the first few, but quickly adapted. His heart rate increased by a small amount and then returned to normal. "Minimal response," Torix noted. The subject's body released a small amount of the adrenaline compound, but levels returned to baseline within 40 seconds. Vexus made a notation on her tablet. "Increase the intensity. We need to trigger a full response." The second test involved flashing lights and simulated danger warnings. The room's lighting changed to emergency red, and alarms blared. Marcus's heart rate increased more significantly this time, but he remained calm. "Still not enough," Vexus muttered. "His conscious mind is overriding his instinctive responses. He knows there is no real danger." "Should we proceed to the third phase?" Torix asked nervously. The ethics committee was concerned about that protocol. "We have approval," Vexus said, "and the subject has signed all necessary waivers." She approached Marcus and spoke directly to him. "Mr. Chen, we are going to introduce a more significant stressor. There is no actual danger to you, but your body may not understand that. Are you prepared to continue?" Marcus shrugged as much as his restraints allowed. "That's what I'm here for, Doc. Hit me with your best shot." Vexus stepped back and activated the holographic projectors. The room around Marcus suddenly transformed. The walls seemed to fall away, replaced by the image of a vast pit beneath him. The table he was strapped to appeared to be suspended over an endless drop into darkness. For a moment, nothing happened. Marcus looked around at the illusion, his expression curious rather than frightened. Then Vexus added the final element. The table tilted forward just slightly, creating the sensation that he was about to fall. The change was immediate and dramatic. Dr. Torix exclaimed, "Look at these readings." Vexus was already watching the monitors with all four of her eyes. The data streaming across the screens was unlike anything she had ever seen. Marcus's heart rate had tripled in less than 2 seconds. His blood pressure had spiked to levels that would have killed most other species. Hormones were flooding his bloodstream in quantities that seemed impossible for such a small body to produce. But it was what happened next that truly shocked her. The restraints holding Marcus to the table were made of reinforced polymer. They were rated to hold species 3 times his strength. They had been tested extensively and certified by the Galactic Safety Commission. Marcus tore through them like they were made of paper. In one explosive motion, he ripped his arms free, sending fragments of the restraints flying across the room. He grabbed the edges of the table and pulled himself upright, muscles standing out under his skin like cables of steel. "Turn it off," Vexus shouted. "Deactivate the simulation." The holographic projectors shut down and the room returned to normal. Marcus stood there, breathing heavily, his eyes wide and wild. Then slowly the tension drained from his body. His breathing slowed. His muscles relaxed. He looked down at the broken restraints with an expression of surprise. "Huh," he said, "that's new." Vexus and Torix stared at him in silence. In all her years of research, Vexus had never witnessed anything like this. The readings on her monitors were still fluctuating as Marcus's body returned to its normal state. The adrenaline levels in his blood were dropping rapidly, but the evidence of what had just happened remained scattered across the floor in the form of broken restraints. "Mr. Chen," Vexus said carefully, "how do you feel?" Marcus flexed his hands experimentally. "Actually, I feel pretty good. A little tired, maybe. That was intense." He looked at the broken restraints again. "Did I really do that?" "You did," Vexus confirmed. "And you should not have been able to. Those restraints were designed to hold a fully grown Korath. They are one of the strongest species in the known galaxy." Marcus let out a low whistle. "I've heard stories about this kind of thing. Mothers lifting cars off their children, people running through walls to escape fires, but I never thought I could do something like that." "Your species has documented cases of this phenomenon?" Vexus asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her initial shock. "Yeah, we call it hysterical strength. It happens in extreme situations. People do things they shouldn't be physically capable of." Torix was still staring at the data on his tablet. "Doctor, according to these readings, his muscle density increased by almost 300% during the event. His pain receptors were almost completely suppressed. His reaction time dropped to levels that approach the theoretical minimum for any biological organism. And all of this," Vexus said slowly, "was triggered by a simple hormone, adrenaline." She looked at Marcus with new eyes. Humans had been considered a minor species when they were first discovered. They had no natural weapons, no protective shells, no special abilities that set them apart. They were soft, fragile creatures with short lifespans and limited physical capabilities. Or so everyone had thought. "This is only the beginning," Vexus said. "We need to understand more. Mr. Chen, are you willing to continue with our research?" Marcus smiled. It was a strange expression on a creature that had just demonstrated the ability to tear through reinforced polymer with his bare hands. "Doc, I came here to help you figure out what makes humans tick. I'm not going anywhere." Vexus nodded. She had a feeling this research was going to change everything the galaxy understood about biological potential. And something told her that what she had witnessed today was only a small glimpse of what humans were truly capable of. She turned to her assistant. "Torix, send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we need a larger research budget and stronger restraints." 3 weeks had passed since the first experiment, and the research facility had been transformed. What had started as a simple study had become the most important scientific project in the sector. Additional researchers had arrived from 12 different worlds. New equipment had been shipped in from laboratories across the galaxy, and at the center of it all was Marcus Chen, still cheerful, still making jokes, and still demonstrating abilities that defied scientific explanation. Dr. Vexus stood in the observation room above the main testing chamber, watching as her colleagues prepared for the day's experiments. The chamber below had been reinforced with military-grade materials. The walls were now thick enough to withstand weapons fire. The restraint systems had been upgraded 4 times, each version stronger than the last. And still, she wasn't entirely sure they would be enough. "The subject is ready," announced Dr. Krellies, a tall, thin being with pale blue skin and elongated fingers. He was one of the galaxy's leading experts on stress hormones, and he had traveled 3 weeks through hyperspace to join this project. Marcus waved up at the observation window. "Morning, everyone. What torture do you have planned for me today?" Vexus activated the intercom. "Today we will be testing your response to simulated combat situations. We want to see how your adrenaline system performs when you are in direct conflict." "You want me to fight something?" "In a manner of speaking. We have programmed combat drones to attack you with increasing levels of aggression. They are equipped with non-lethal weapons only. You will feel pain, but you will not be seriously harmed." Marcus rolled his shoulders and stretched his neck. "Sounds like fun. Let's do it." The first drone entered the chamber from a panel in the wall. It was a small, spherical machine with multiple arms extending from its body. Each arm ended in a different type of non-lethal weapon: stun pads, pressure hammers, and electrified probes. Marcus watched it approach with focused attention. When it lunged at him, he sidestepped smoothly, catching one of its arms and using its momentum to throw it against the wall. The drone recalibrated and attacked again, faster this time. Marcus ducked under its swing and delivered a precise punch to its central processor. The drone's lights flickered and died. "Interesting," Dr. Krellies muttered, studying the readouts. His adrenaline levels barely increased. He is treating this as exercise, not combat. "Send in more drones," Vexus ordered, "and increase their aggression parameters." 3 more drones emerged from the walls. They moved in a coordinated pattern, approaching Marcus from different angles. He fought them efficiently, his movements precise and controlled. One by one, they fell to his counterattacks. "Still not enough," Vexus said. "We need to make him feel genuinely threatened." Dr. Krellies looked uncertain. "The ethics protocols are being followed," Vexus interrupted. "Mr. Chen signed a comprehensive waiver. He understood the risks." She activated the secondary drone bay. "Release the Crusher units." The Crusher units were different from the standard combat drones. They were large, heavy machines designed to simulate the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Each one weighed over 500 kilograms and was capable of exerting pressures that could crack stone. 2 of them entered the chamber, their metal feet pounding against the floor like drums. Marcus's expression changed. The casual confidence disappeared, replaced by something sharper. His posture shifted, lowering his center of gravity. His eyes tracked both machines simultaneously, calculating distances and angles. "Now we're getting somewhere," Krellies said, watching the monitors. "Adrenaline levels are climbing, heart rate increasing, muscle tension rising across all major groups." The first Crusher charged. It moved faster than its bulk suggested, closing the distance in seconds. Marcus dove to the side, narrowly avoiding its grasping arms. He rolled to his feet and immediately had to dodge the second machine, which had anticipated his movement. The 2 Crushers worked together, coordinating their attacks to cut off his escape routes. Marcus was forced into a corner, his back against the reinforced wall. "Adrenaline levels approaching the threshold we observed in the first experiment," Krellies reported. His body is preparing for something. Both crushers attacked at once. Their massive arms reached for Marcus, intending to pin him against the wall. In any normal situation, there would have been no escape. But this was not a normal situation. Marcus planted his feet and pushed off the wall, launching himself directly between the two machines. He grabbed one of the crusher's arms as he passed, using his momentum to swing his body around. His legs wrapped around the machine's sensor cluster, and with a twisting motion that should have been physically impossible, he tore it free from the main body. The crusher staggered, blind and confused. Marcus landed in a crouch and immediately turned to face the second machine. It swung at him with both arms, but he caught them. Metal groaned as his fingers dug into the reinforced plating. For a moment, they were locked in a contest of strength, human against machine. The machine lost. With a roar of effort, Marcus pushed the crusher's arms apart, then drove his head forward into its central processor. The impact rang through the chamber like a bell. The machine's lights went dark, and it toppled backward, crashing to the floor with a sound like thunder. Silence filled the observation room. Every researcher stared at the scene below, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Marcus stood between the two disabled crushers, breathing hard but grinning. A thin line of blood ran down his forehead where he had struck the machine. He didn't seem to notice. Was that good enough? He called up to the observation window. Dr. Krellies was the first to find his voice. He destroyed 2 crusher units with his bare hands. Those machines are used to simulate predators that have no known biological counters. No species in the galactic database should be able to defeat them in direct combat. And yet, Vexus said quietly, a human just did exactly that. She studied the data on her screen. Marcus's adrenaline levels had peaked during the fight, triggering a cascade of physical changes throughout his body. His muscles had operated at nearly 400% of their normal capacity. His pain receptors had been completely suppressed. His reaction time had dropped to almost zero. But what interested her most was what happened after the fight. As soon as the threat was eliminated, his body began returning to normal. The adrenaline was metabolized at an astonishing rate. Within minutes, his vital signs would be indistinguishable from any other resting human. It's not just about activation, she said slowly, thinking out loud. It's about control. His body knows when to turn on these abilities and when to turn them off. It's a completely integrated system. A biological weapon system, Krellies agreed. One that has been perfected over millions of years of evolution. Vexus nodded. And we still don't fully understand it. We need to dig deeper. We need to find out exactly how this system developed and what its true limits are. Below in the testing chamber, Marcus was being attended to by medical robots. The cut on his forehead had already stopped bleeding. He was joking with the robots as they applied a bandage, apparently unbothered by the fact that he had just performed physical feats that should have been impossible. Vexus found herself wondering what else humans were capable of. What other secrets did their biology hold? And perhaps most importantly, what would happen if they ever truly understood and controlled these abilities? She had a feeling that the answer to that question would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Prepare the next phase of testing, she ordered, and contact Earth's military command. I want to know if they have documentation of their soldiers operating under extreme stress conditions. You think there's more? Krellies asked. Vexus watched Marcus laugh at something one of the medical robots had done. Such a strange species, so fragile in appearance, yet so devastatingly capable when pushed to their limits. I'm certain of it, she said. What we've seen so far is only the beginning, and I intend to discover exactly how far this rabbit hole goes. Krellies looked confused. Rabbit hole. A human expression, Vexus explained. I've been reading their literature. It refers to a journey into the unknown that leads to increasingly strange discoveries. She turned back to her monitors, already planning the next series of experiments. There was so much more to learn about human biology, and something told her that every discovery would be more remarkable than the last. The message from Earth's military command arrived 3 days later. Along with it came a sealed data package containing information that had never been shared with any alien species. Dr. Vexus read through the files with growing amazement, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly as she processed the contents. The documents described cases of human soldiers performing impossible acts during combat. A woman who had carried 2 wounded comrades across 3 kilometers of hostile territory with a broken leg. A man who had fought off 17 attackers while suffering from wounds that should have killed him. A team of 6 soldiers who had held a defensive position for 12 hours against overwhelming odds, refusing to fall until reinforcements arrived. And in every case, the medical analysis pointed to the same cause: adrenaline. But what fascinated Vexus most was the additional data the military had included. They had been studying this phenomenon themselves for centuries. They called it the fight or flight response, and they had documented its effects in precise detail. According to their research, the adrenaline response was just one part of a larger system that humans had evolved over millions of years. Their bodies had developed multiple overlapping mechanisms to enhance their survival capabilities, and under the right circumstances, these mechanisms could work together to produce results that bordered on the supernatural. Vexus called an emergency meeting of the research team. "We have been thinking about this too narrowly," she announced to the assembled scientists. "The adrenaline response is remarkable, but it's not the only adaptation humans possess. Their biology is a complex system of interconnected survival mechanisms." She activated the holographic display, showing charts and diagrams from the Earth military's research. Consider their endocrine system. Adrenaline provides short-term enhancement, but they also produce cortisol for sustained stress response, endorphins for pain suppression, and dopamine for focus and motivation. These hormones can be released in various combinations depending on the situation. Dr. Crelly studied the display. So the adrenaline response is just one tool in a larger toolkit. Exactly, but there's more. Vexus changed the display to show images of human muscle tissue. Their muscles are designed differently from most species. They have what they call fast-twitch and slow-twitch muscle fibers. The fast-twitch fibers can generate enormous force for short periods, while the slow-twitch fibers provide endurance. And under adrenaline activation, another researcher asked. Under activation, both types of fibers work together at maximum efficiency. Additionally, the normal limiters that prevent humans from damaging their own bodies are suppressed. Their brains typically restrict muscle output to about 60% of maximum capacity to prevent injury. But in extreme situations, those restrictions can be overridden. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're saying that humans normally operate at reduced capacity?" Crellies asked slowly. "Yes. What we've observed in our experiments represents their bodies temporarily accessing their full potential. Under normal circumstances, they can't maintain that level of output because it would destroy their muscles and joints. But in survival situations, the damage is acceptable," Crellies concluded. "Better to have torn muscles than to be dead." Precisely. Vexus brought up new data on the display, and there's another factor we need to consider: human healing capabilities. The display showed medical records of humans recovering from injuries that would have been fatal to most species: broken bones that healed within weeks, wounds that closed and scarred over, even lost blood volume that was regenerated over time. "We've known that humans have regenerative abilities," one of the researchers noted, "but we assumed they were limited." "So did everyone else," Vexus agreed. "But look at this." She highlighted a particular case study. This human soldier suffered degree burns over 40% of his body. He was expected to require years of medical treatment. Instead, he was back on active duty within 8 months. His skin had regenerated almost completely. How is that possible? Their bodies produce growth factors that accelerate tissue repair. Combined with their aggressive immune system and their ability to maintain consciousness through pain, they can survive and recover from trauma that would kill almost any other known species. Krellis leaned back in his chair. So let me understand this correctly. Humans possess enhanced strength when threatened, suppressed pain responses, accelerated healing, and multiple overlapping survival mechanisms. All of this evolved naturally on their homeworld. Yes, and we haven't even discussed their most dangerous adaptation yet. There's more. Vexus smiled grimly. Their brains. She changed the display to show neural imaging data. Human brains are remarkably adaptable. They can rewire themselves in response to new challenges. This is called neuroplasticity, and humans possess it to a degree we've never seen in any other species. What does that mean in practical terms? It means they can learn and adapt faster than almost any other intelligent species. A human can be trained to perform complex tasks that would take other species years to master. And in crisis situations, their brains can process information at speeds that approach the theoretical maximum for biological neural networks. Combined with the adrenaline response, Krellis said, beginning to understand the full picture, they become a perfect combat organism. Stronger, faster, resistant to pain, able to think clearly under pressure, and capable of healing from almost any wound. Exactly. Vexus deactivated the display, and this raises an important question. How did such a species evolve? What kind of environment produces organisms like this? She pulled up images of Earth. Its diverse landscapes, its volatile weather patterns, its countless species of predators and competitors. Earth is a death world, she said simply. It has extreme temperature variations, natural disasters, dangerous wildlife, and fierce competition for resources. Every organism on that planet has been shaped by millions of years of brutal natural selection. Only the most adaptable species survive. And humans are the ultimate survivors, Krellis concluded. They had to be. They evolved without natural weapons, without protective armor, without venom or claws. They survived by outthinking, outrunning, and outlasting everything that tried to kill them. The adrenaline response was just one of the tools that allowed them to do that. The meeting room was silent for a long moment. Every researcher was processing the implications of what they had learned. Finally, one of them spoke. Dr. Vexus, what do we do with this information? If humans truly possess all of these capabilities, how should the galactic community respond? Vexus considered the question carefully. We continue our research. We learn everything we can about human biology, and we share our findings with the Galactic Council so they can make informed decisions about humanity's role in the interstellar community. Some will argue that humans are too dangerous, Krellis noted. There will be calls to restrict their access to certain technologies or to limit their expansion. Perhaps, but I would argue that trying to contain humans would be a mistake. History shows that they respond poorly to constraints, and given what we now know about their capabilities, any attempt to restrict them could end very badly for everyone involved. She looked around the room at her colleagues. No, I think the better approach is to welcome them as partners, to learn from them and let them learn from us. Human biology may seem frightening, but remember, they have used these abilities to survive, not to conquer. They have every reason to be peaceful members of the galactic community. And if they're not, someone asked. Vexus thought about Marcus Chen, still cheerfully cooperating with every experiment they devised. She thought about the military files she had read, documenting humans who had sacrificed themselves to protect others. Then we are fortunate that they appear to be a species with a strong sense of honor and community, she said. Because if they ever decided to turn their abilities against the rest of the galaxy, I'm not sure anything could stop them. The crisis came without warning. One moment, the research station was operating normally. The next, alarms were blaring throughout every corridor. Dr. Vexus was in her laboratory when the first explosion shook the station. She grabbed the edge of her desk as the floor trembled beneath her feet. "What's happening?" she demanded, activating her communication device. The response came from the station's security chief, a gruff Taurelian named Commander Vrax. "Pirates, a Crimson Fang raiding party. They've breached the outer hull and are making their way toward the central sections." The Crimson Fang were one of the most feared pirate groups in this sector. They targeted research stations for their valuable equipment and data, and they left no witnesses. "How many?" Vexus asked. "At least 40, maybe more. They've already overwhelmed the security teams in the docking section. We're trying to establish a defensive line, but they're better armed and better trained than we are." Vexus felt her heart begin to race. The station had a small security force, meant to handle minor incidents and maintain order. They were not equipped to repel a full-scale pirate assault. "Have you sent a distress signal?" "Yes, but the nearest patrol is hours away. We're on our own." Another explosion rocked the station, closer this time. Through the walls, Vexus could hear the sound of weapons fire and screaming. "Doctor," Torix burst into the laboratory, his eyes wide with terror. "We need to evacuate. The pirates are approaching this section." Vexus was about to agree when a new voice cut in on her communication device. "Doc, it's Marcus. I heard the alarms. What's going on?" "Pirates," she replied. "Crimson Fang, they're attacking the station." There was a brief pause. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was different, harder, more focused. "Where are they now?" "Moving through sections 3 and 4. They're heading toward the central hub." "How many?" "At least 40. Another pause, longer this time. Vexus could almost hear Marcus thinking, calculating, planning. "I need weapons," he said finally. "Where's the armory?" "Mr. Chen, you can't possibly be suggesting." "Doc, listen to me. You've been studying what my body can do for weeks now. You've seen me tear through your strongest restraints and fight your combat drones. Do you really think I'm going to hide in a corner while pirates slaughter everyone on this station?" Vexus felt a strange sensation in her chest. It took her a moment to identify it as hope. "The armory is in Section 2, near the security office," she said. "I'll send you the access codes." "Thanks, Doc. Now get somewhere safe. And watch the security feeds. You're about to see exactly what humans are capable of when someone threatens the people we care about." The communication cut off. Vexus immediately activated the station's internal monitoring system, directing cameras to follow Marcus as he moved through the corridors. He was running, his feet pounding against the metal floor. Even at a full sprint, his movements were controlled, efficient. He dodged around obstacles without slowing, turned corners at angles that seemed to defy physics, and covered ground faster than Vexus would have thought possible for a creature with only 2 legs. He reached the armory in less than 3 minutes. The access code worked, and he disappeared inside. When he emerged moments later, he was carrying an assortment of weapons: 2 energy pistols, a plasma rifle, and what appeared to be an explosive device of some kind. "Marcus, what are you planning?" Vexus asked through the intercom. "I'm going to thin their numbers," he replied. "Then I'm going to find their leader and end this." "There are 40 of them." Marcus smiled. It was the same expression she had seen when he had destroyed the Crusher units, but there was something different in his eyes now. Something cold and determined. "Good thing I brought extra ammunition." He moved toward Section 3, where the main pirate force was advancing. Vexus watched on the monitors as he found a position overlooking a corridor they would have to pass through. He waited there, perfectly still, his breathing slow and controlled. The pirates came around the corner in a loose formation. They were large, heavily armored, and clearly confident in their superiority. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Marcus opened fire. The first 3 pirates went down before the others even realized they were under attack. Marcus moved with terrifying efficiency, each shot finding its mark. He didn't waste ammunition or motion. He simply identified targets and eliminated them. The pirates scattered, seeking cover. They returned fire, but Marcus was already moving, dropping to a new position before their shots could reach him. "What is that thing?" one of the pirates shouted. "It moves too fast." "It's a human," another replied, "just one human." "Then kill it." The pirates concentrated their fire on Marcus's last known position. They poured energy blasts into the corridor, filling the air with destructive power. But Marcus wasn't there anymore. He had circled around through the maintenance tunnels, emerging behind the pirate group. Before they could react, he had thrown the explosive device into their midst and ducked back into cover. The explosion killed 8 more pirates and scattered the rest. In the chaos that followed, Marcus was everywhere and nowhere. He appeared from unexpected angles, fired with deadly accuracy, and vanished before the pirates could retaliate. The security cameras could barely keep up with his movements. Vexus watched in amazement as the pirate force was systematically destroyed. What had been 40 confident raiders was now reduced to fewer than 15, and those survivors were terrified and disorganized. "This is impossible," Torix whispered, standing beside her. "One human against an entire raiding party." "Not impossible," Vexus said softly, "just human." She pulled up Marcus's biometric data on her tablet. His adrenaline levels were off the chart. His heart was pumping at rates that should have caused cardiac failure. His muscles were operating at maximum capacity, drawing power from reserves that shouldn't have existed. And yet somehow, his mind remained clear. He wasn't operating on pure instinct. He was thinking, planning, adapting to the situation as it developed. It was the perfect combination of enhanced physical capability and focused mental control. The remaining pirates had regrouped around their leader, a massive Taurelian with scars covering half his face. They were making a desperate push toward the escape pods, trying to flee the station. Marcus cut them off. He stood alone in the corridor leading to the pods, weapons raised. His clothing was scorched and torn. There was blood on his face from a wound he hadn't noticed, but his expression was calm, almost peaceful. "You can surrender," he said to the pirates, "or you can die, your choice." The pirate leader snarled, "One human thinks he can stop us, kill him." The remaining pirates opened fire. Marcus moved. What happened next was too fast for Vexus to follow in real time. She had to watch the security footage later, slowed to 1/10 speed, to understand what Marcus had done. He had rolled under the initial volley of fire, coming up with both pistols blazing. 4 pirates fell. He then threw himself to the side, using a support column for cover while he picked off 3 more. The remaining pirates tried to rush him, thinking to overwhelm him with numbers. It was the wrong decision. Marcus met them head-on. He dropped his empty pistols and fought hand-to-hand, his movements a blur of violence. He broke bones with his strikes. He used the pirates' own weapons against them. He fought with a ferocity that seemed almost inhuman. Within 60 seconds, it was over. The pirate leader was the only one left standing, and even he was wounded and staggering. "What are you?" the pirate gasped. Marcus stood over him, breathing hard but still steady on his feet. "I'm human, and you made the mistake of threatening people I care about." He knocked the pirate leader unconscious with a single blow to the head. Then slowly, the tension drained from his body. His shoulders slumped. His hands began to shake. The adrenaline that had sustained him through the fight was fatting, and the accumulated strain of what he had done was catching up with him. He sat down heavily against the wall, surrounded by the bodies of his enemies, and waited for help to arrive. The aftermath of the pirate attack was chaotic. Medical teams rushed through the station, treating the wounded and collecting the dead. Security personnel from the patrol ships that finally arrived took the surviving pirates into custody. Engineers began assessing the damage to the station's infrastructure. And in the center of it all was Marcus Chen, lying in a medical bay while doctors from 5 different species worked to treat his injuries. Dr. Vexus watched from the observation window. Marcus had suffered numerous wounds during the fight: 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, multiple lacerations, and severe bruising across most of his body. By all rights, he should have collapsed long before the battle was over. But he hadn't. He had kept fighting until every threat was neutralized. Only then had his body allowed itself to feel the damage. The adrenaline suppressed his pain response, Dr. Crelly said, standing beside her. He literally couldn't feel how badly he was hurt. His body prioritized combat effectiveness over self-preservation. And now he's experiencing all of it at once. The medical team is managing his pain, but they say he'll make a full recovery within a few weeks. Vexus shook her head in amazement. A few weeks? He fought 40 pirates single-handedly, suffered injuries that would have killed most species, and he'll be back to normal in a few weeks. That's what the data suggests, Crellies confirmed. His body is already beginning the healing process. The accelerated tissue repair we documented is functioning exactly as expected. Inside the medical bay, Marcus opened his eyes. He looked around, disoriented for a moment, then saw Vexus watching through the window. He raised his uninjured hand in a weak wave. Vexus found herself waving back. "I need to speak with him," she told Crellies. "There are questions only he can answer." She entered the medical bay and approached Marcus's bed. Up close, she could see the full extent of his injuries. His face was swollen and discolored. Bandages covered most of his torso. Various monitoring devices were attached to his body, tracking his vital signs. Despite all of this, he smiled when he saw her. "Hey, Doc, sorry I messed up your research schedule." "You saved this station," Vexus said. "You saved everyone on it, myself included." Marcus shrugged, then winced at the pain the movement caused. "I just did what needed to be done. Anyone would have." "No," Vexus said firmly. "They wouldn't have. What you did was extraordinary, even by human standards. I've reviewed the security footage. You fought with a level of skill and determination that I've never seen before." Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, more thoughtful. "I was scared, Doc. When I heard those alarms, when I realized what was happening, I was terrified. Not for myself, but for everyone else. For you and Torix and all the other scientists who have been so kind to me. I couldn't stand the thought of anything happening to you." "And that fear triggered your adrenaline response," Vexus said, understanding. "It was more than that. The adrenaline helped, but what really drove me was something deeper. We call it purpose. When you're fighting for something that matters, something bigger than yourself, you can push past limits you didn't know you had." Vexus considered this. So the emotional component is as important as the biological one. They're connected. The stronger the emotion, the more powerful the response. Love, loyalty, the need to protect the people who depend on you. These things unlock capabilities that pure survival instinct can't match. Vexus felt a new understanding forming in her mind. For weeks, she had been studying human biology as a purely physical phenomenon. She had measured hormones and muscle density and reaction times, but she had missed the larger picture. Humans weren't remarkable just because of their biological adaptations. They were remarkable because of how those adaptations were integrated with their emotional and psychological lives. Their bodies and minds worked together in ways that produced results far greater than either could achieve alone. "Thank you, Marcus," she said. "You've given me a great deal to think about." "Anytime, Doc, that's what I'm here for." He paused, then added, "Well, that and apparently fighting pirates." Vexus laughed. It was a strange sound coming from her species, but it felt appropriate. She left Marcus to rest and returned to her laboratory. There was still so much work to do. The research they had conducted was valuable, but the incident with the pirates had revealed new dimensions that needed to be explored. A week later, she presented her findings to the Galactic Council. The council chamber was vast, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. They had gathered to hear her report on human biology, particularly in light of the recent incident at the research station. "Distinguished members of the council," Vexus began, "I come before you today to share what we have learned about human biology. The data we have gathered challenges many of our assumptions about the limits of biological capability." She activated the holographic display and began presenting her research. She showed them the data on the adrenaline response, the enhanced strength, the suppressed pain receptors. She explained the concept of fight or flight and demonstrated how humans could temporarily exceed their normal physical limits. The council members watched in silence, their expressions ranging from skepticism to fear to fascination. "But the most important finding," Vexus continued, "is not about human biology alone. It's about the integration of their physical capabilities with their psychological and emotional lives." She displayed security footage from the pirate attack. The council watched as Marcus single-handedly defeated an entire raiding party. "This human was not fighting for his own survival," Vexus explained. "He was fighting to protect others, and that emotional motivation allowed him to access capabilities that even our most extreme laboratory tests could not fully measure." A council member from a species known for their cautious nature spoke up. "Dr. Vexus, what you describe sounds like a potential threat. If humans can perform such feats when protecting others, what might they do if they decided to attack?" Vexus had anticipated this question. A reasonable concern, but consider, the same mechanisms that make humans formidable in combat also make them reliable allies. Their loyalty, their sense of community, their willingness to sacrifice for others. These are not weaknesses to be exploited. They are the foundation of their character. She displayed more data on the screen. In every documented case of humans displaying extreme capabilities, the trigger has been protective rather than aggressive. They push beyond their limits to save lives, not to take them. This is a species that values community and connection above all else. Another council member, a tall being with crystalline features, leaned forward. "Are you suggesting that we should welcome humans as full partners in the galactic community?" "I am," Vexus said firmly. "Humans bring unique capabilities to any alliance. Their adaptability, their resilience, their determination. But more than that, they bring their hearts. They care deeply about the welfare of those around them. That is something that cannot be measured in a laboratory, but it is perhaps their greatest strength." The council deliberated for many hours. There were concerns and objections, questions and debates, but in the end they reached a decision. Humanity would be offered full membership in the Galactic Council. They would be welcomed as allies and partners, their unique abilities recognized as assets rather than threats. When Vexus returned to the research station, she found Marcus waiting for her. He was still healing, but he was on his feet, moving around with only a slight limp. "I heard about the council's decision," he said. "Full membership, that's a big deal." "It is," Vexus agreed, "and you played a significant role in making it happen." Marcus shook his head. "I just did what any human would have done. You're the one who helped them understand us." "Perhaps, but I could not have done it without your willingness to participate in our research. You trusted us enough to let us study you, even when our methods were uncomfortable and our understanding was limited. That's what partners do, Marcus said simply. They trust each other, they work together, they protect each other. Vexus extended one of her hands in the human gesture of greeting that Marcus had taught her. He took it and shook it firmly. "Welcome to the galactic community, Marcus Chen," she said. "I have a feeling this is the beginning of a remarkable partnership." Marcus smiled his characteristic smile. "You know, Doc, I think you're right. And hey, if any more pirates show up, you know who to call." Vexus laughed again. It was becoming easier each time. Outside the observation window, the stars shone in the darkness of space. Somewhere among them was Earth, the death world that had produced such remarkable creatures. Somewhere among them were all the other species of the galaxy, waiting to see what humanity would do next. And somewhere in that vast expanse of possibility was the future, waiting to be written by humans and aliens working together, united by the understanding that the true measure of a species was not just what they were capable of, but what they chose to do with those capabilities. Vexus turned away from the window and returned to her work. There was still so much to learn, so much to discover. But for the first time since she had begun this research, she wasn't just curious about human biology. She was inspired by it. And she had a feeling that inspiration was something humans had been sharing with others for a very long time, and would continue to share for many ages to come.